Okay, I wanted to do a couple of videos on finding R and B for an exponential model of data. Sometimes it can seem pretty time-consuming to use this formula, but there are some ways to streamline the process. If the independent variable is increasing by just 1, then this difference will always be 1. 2 minus 1, 3 minus 2, 4 minus 3. 1 over 1 is just 1. And so finding these values of R, well, that's just going to be, I'll do it out the longhand way the first time. Well, this is just 11 over 8. So calculating this just involves calculating fractions. So what we can do, calculating R for these, is actually quite quick. I just need 11 divided by 8. That would be 1.375, and then 13 divided by 11. That's 1.18, and I should be consistent, so I'll round. It's 2. I'll pause and do the rest of these. So check your answers against these. This only takes about a moment if you do it in this quick fashion. If you set up each individual formula, it'll take considerably longer. For B, there's also a pretty streamlined method. You just have to have the average for these R values that I forgot to calculate, but do pretty quickly. Divided by 6. So my R is 1.237. This is my R average. Now for B, again, what's the pattern? Well, we're going to take a point and plug it into this equation and solve for B. Well, we can solve for B first. So this is y1 over R average to the power. So let me show you how that works. So I would take 8 divided by, in parentheses, my R average raised to 1. And that gives me 6.4, we'll just do 2 decimals, I suppose, 7. Now, the next one will be 11 divided by, parentheses, 1.237 squared. There's 7.19. The next one would be 13 divided by, in parentheses, 1.237 raised to 3. There's 6.868, and then 14 divided by, parentheses, 1.237 to the 4th power. One thing you should notice is that these B values should end up being roughly the same. They shouldn't get much smaller or much larger. They should all hover around some basic value, is the idea. This is 6.21, 21 divided by 2.37, whoops, that's not right, 1.237 raised to the power of 6, 5.86, and one more, 28 divided by 1.237 raised to the 7th power gives us 6.32. So now I've done all of my R's. I have my R value, and I can do all of my B's. Now, one of the expectations is that you are able to do this efficiently. So on an exam, some people might be a little faster than others, but the expectation is that you can do this efficiently. Find B average 7.48. So now I have an equation to describe this data. Y equals 7.48 times 1.237x. And even with the time off camera, this is about 5 or 6 minutes. It wouldn't be all that much longer with 10 data points. If you do all these things out individually, though, you could take your extra 5 or 10 minutes, and that's just not an efficient use of time. So practice working more quickly. Now, what would happen if these were separated by tens? that would be a different situation. You'd have different R values. You should ask yourself the moment whether they'd be smaller. They would be smaller. Why are they smaller? Well, you have the same growth in the dependent variable, but it's taking longer to happen. So we would expect a smaller value of R. Now, here the jump is by 10. 1 over 10, if you don't know, you should check, it's just 0.1. So it's a little bit more work, but not too much. 11 divided by 8 raised to the 0.1. I don't have to raise it to the 1/10. Now there is an exception. You want to be careful about approximating fractions. If it were 1/3, you wouldn't want to do 0.3. You'd end up with quite a different answer. Make sure again that you use parentheses. Each time I'm just raising it to the 0.1. So 14 divided by 13 raised to the 0.1. I don't have to put 1/10 in there because I've stopped to think about it. And then 18 divided by 14 raised to the 0.1. That's 1.025. And then 21 divided by 18 raised to the 0.1. That's 1.016. Then 28 divided by 21 raised to the 0.1 is 0.29. And this is a smaller value, by the way. Remember, the previous average value is 1.2. Now it's 1.0. So you can average these things together. And then the same thing with b. B is no harder or no easier. You still have an exponent. But think about how to streamline this process so you can get it done efficiently. And look over your answers. The R should be relatively similar. The B should be relatively similar. It's okay to go up and down a little bit, but you shouldn't have 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 0, 0. That doesn't make any sense. Your R's shouldn't be 1.0, 1.0, 1.0, 1.6, 1.6, 1.6. If that's happening, then chances are there's been a mistake. Not necessarily. There could be other reasons, but it's something to think about.